My sister called me pathetic in front of 20 relatives at dinner. I'm Olivia Smith, 32, and this happened last month. For years, my family treated me like a failure for choosing writing over a real career. Then I inherited $333 million from my Aunt Margaret. But instead of telling them right away, I decided to test who truly cared about me, not my money. I told them I was struggling to pay for therapy. Their responses revealed everything I needed to know about blood versus chosen family. If you're watching this, please subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. Let me tell you how money revealed my family's true colors. 5 years ago, I left my corporate marketing job to pursue freelance writing. It wasn't an impulsive decision. I'd saved for months, built a client base, and even had a column in a regional magazine. But to my family, especially my mother Patricia, I might as well have announced I was joining the circus. Writing isn't a career, it's what you do while looking for real work, Mom said at Thanksgiving that year, carving the turkey with the same precision she used to dissect my life choices. The entire table nodded in agreement, except for my cousin Emma, who was still in community college then. My sister Victoria, 3 years older and a successful corporate lawyer, became Mom's favorite comparison tool. Victoria just made partner at 34, she'd announce at every gathering. The youngest in her firm's history. Then the inevitable pause, the pointed look in my direction. And Olivia is still finding herself. I'd written for Forbes, Psychology Today, and The Atlantic. My essay about millennial burnout was nominated for a national magazine award. But when I mentioned it at my nephew's birthday party, Mom changed the subject to Victoria's new BMW. The irony? I was making decent money. Not Victoria-level money, but enough to pay my bills, save a little, and occasionally splurge on good coffee. But in my family's eyes, if you weren't climbing a corporate ladder, you were falling. "When will you get a real job?" became their greeting. Not "how are you" or "what are you working on?" Just that question, over and over, like a hammer driving me deeper into the ground. I started dreading family dinners, making excuses to skip holidays, but that only made things worse. "She's probably embarrassed," I once overheard Victoria tell our cousins. I would be too. Monthly family dinners at Francesca's became my personal hell. Every last Saturday, 20-plus relatives would gather in the private dining room, and I'd strategically arrive late to minimize the interrogation time. The routine never changed. Victoria would sweep in with her latest accomplishment, a high-profile case won, a bonus received, a mention in Legal Weekly. Mom would literally applaud. "Everyone! Victoria just saved her client $50 million. The room would erupt in congratulations while I pushed pasta around my plate. Then came my turn. "So what have you accomplished lately, Olivia?" The question always came from Aunt Linda, Mom's sister, with a smile sharp enough to cut glass. "I'm working on a piece about—" "Still doing that writing thing?" Uncle Robert would interrupt. "You know, my neighbor's daughter started a blog. Makes 6 figures now. Maybe you should try that." They never let me finish a sentence about my work, but Victoria could spend 40 minutes describing depositions, and everyone hung on every word. Only Emma understood. She'd find me during cocktail hour, usually hiding by the restroom hallway. "Your Atlantic piece made me cry," she whispered once. "The good kind, about recognizing your worth." Emma worked minimum wage at a bookstore while taking night classes. The family treated her almost as poorly as they treated me, the other disappointment. But she never made me feel less than. She'd text me funny memes during Victoria's speeches, squeeze my hand when Mom's comments cut too deep. "At least Victoria makes us proud," Patricia announced one evening, after my sister finished a story about meeting the governor. She said it to the entire table, but her eyes were locked on mine. That night, Emma drove me home. "They're wrong about you," she said. "Someday, they'll see it." I didn't believe her then. Monday morning, 8:47 a.m. I was editing a piece about workplace toxicity. The irony wasn't lost on me when my phone rang. Unknown number, local area code. Ms. Olivia Smith, this is James Harrison from Harrison and Associates. I'm calling about your Aunt Margaret's estate. Aunt Margaret, Mom's older sister who'd moved to Seattle decades ago. The eccentric one who never married, never had kids, and showed up to exactly 3 family events in my lifetime. She'd died 2 weeks prior. Mom had mentioned it briefly, more annoyed about traveling to the funeral than sad about the loss. There's been a bequest, Mr. Harrison continued. Could you come to my office today? It's rather significant. 3 hours later, I sat in a mahogany-paneled office, staring at documents that didn't seem real. $333 million. The number didn't compute. Your aunt was an early investor in several tech companies, Mr. Harrison explained. Very early. She lived modestly, but invested brilliantly. She left everything to you. Why me? My voice came out strangled. We barely knew each other. He handed me a letter, Aunt Margaret's handwriting still bold at 81. To the only one who followed her heart, I read aloud. They mocked my choices too, Olivia. I spent 50 years proving them wrong. Don't wait that long. Use this to live authentically. The money is freedom, but watching their faces when they find out, that's just a bonus. I laughed, then cried, then laughed again. Mr. Harrison smiled. She also left instructions. She wanted the announcement to be memorable, public. She said you'd know when. Driving home, 9 figures in my bank account, I made a decision. I wouldn't tell them yet. First, I needed to know who my real family was. The constant dismissal had taken its toll. I'd started seeing Dr. Chen 6 months earlier when I found myself unable to write for 3 straight weeks. Not writer's block, writer's shame. I sit at my laptop and hear my mother's voice, I told her during our 3rd session. Writing isn't a real job. You're wasting your education. Why can't you be more like Victoria? The depression was subtle but persistent. Insomnia became my companion. I'd lie awake replaying every family dinner, every cutting remark, wondering if they were right. Maybe I was wasting my life. Maybe I should have stayed in marketing, climbed that ladder, bought that BMW. Have you considered that your family might be wrong? Dr. Chen asked. Every day. But when everyone you love thinks you're a failure, it's hard not to believe them. The therapy helped, but at $200 per session, it strained my budget. I'd already cut Netflix, gym membership, even my beloved coffee shop visits. Writing paid the bills, but barely. One slow month, and I'd have to choose between rent and mental health. The cruelest part? I'd almost quit 3 months ago. After a particularly brutal Easter dinner where Mom announced to everyone that she was mourning the daughter she could have had, I'd actually updated my corporate resume. Sent it to 3 firms. Got callbacks from 2. Emma talked me out of it. You'll die in a cubicle, she said simply. Not literally, but the Olivia who writes truth, who helps people feel seen, she'll disappear. She was right. But sitting in my apartment, inheritance documents hidden in my desk drawer, I realized something else. I'd been so focused on proving my worth to people who'd already decided I was worthless. Maybe it was time to stop trying. Maybe it was time to find out who actually gave a damn. I spent 3 days planning my test. It had to be believable, specific, and impossible to misinterpret. Asking for therapy money was perfect. Small enough to be reasonable, vulnerable enough to matter. The next family dinner was in 4 days. Mom had already sent the Francesca's reminder with her usual passive-aggressive addition. Please be on time, Olivia. I practiced in my mirror. I need help with therapy costs. Simple, direct, no room for misunderstanding. Then I did something that felt sneaky but necessary. I bought a voice recorder. New York is a one-party consent state, meaning I could legally record our conversation. Not for revenge or blackmail, for clarity. Because my family had a way of rewriting history, and I needed to remember exactly who showed up and who walked away. Emma texted Thursday night. You okay? You seemed off on our call. I almost told her everything. About the money, the plan, the recorder. But I needed her reaction to be genuine, too. If anyone would pass this test, it was Emma, but I had to be sure. Friday morning, Mr. Harrison called. The estate is fully transferred. Also, I'll be attending your mother's birthday party next week. She invited the firm. We've handled your family's smaller legal matters for years. Should I maintain discretion about your inheritance? Yes, but bring the documentation. I might need you to confirm some facts. Your aunt would have loved this, he chuckled. She had a flair for dramatic reveals, too. I looked at my bank balance one more time. $247,892. Then I closed the app and rehearsed my lines again. Tomorrow, I'd find out if my family's love had a price tag, or if it existed at all. The truth was, staying silent would cost me everything that mattered. My therapist had been clear. The chronic stress of family rejection is affecting your physical health. The insomnia was getting worse. I'd developed stress hives that appeared before every family gathering. My writing, the one thing I'd sacrificed everything for, was suffering. Last week, I'd missed a deadline for the first time in 5 years. My editor at Psychology Today was understanding, but I could hear the concern. This isn't like you, Olivia. Is everything okay? Nothing was okay. I couldn't write about authenticity and self-worth while drowning in shame. Every piece felt like a lie. How could I tell readers to set boundaries when I let my family trample mine monthly? The worst part was the ripple effect. I'd started declining opportunities, convinced I wasn't good enough. Turned down a speaking engagement at Columbia. Passed on a book deal because Mom's voice in my head whispered, "Who wants to read what you have to say?" If I didn't do something soon, they'd win. Not through malice, but through erosion. Each dinner, each dismissive comment, each comparison to Victoria carved away another piece of my identity until there'd be nothing left but the daughter they were ashamed of. I needed to know who loved me, not what they thought I could give them, I whispered to my reflection Saturday morning, putting on my armor, a simple black dress that made me feel powerful. The recorder fit perfectly in my purse. My hands didn't shake as I drove to Francesca's. This wasn't about the money anymore, or even revenge. It was about survival, about finally learning whether the people who shared my blood also shared my heart, or if family was something I'd have to build from scratch. Francesca's private room glowed with soft candlelight, 20 relatives already deep in conversation when I arrived. The usual suspects, Mom holding court at the head, Victoria to her right, various aunts, uncles, and cousins filling the spaces between. Victoria was mid-story about her latest courtroom victory. The opposing counsel actually tried to argue precedent from 1987. I destroyed him in 12 minutes. Brilliant, Mom beamed. Everyone, Victoria just won a $10 million judgment. The applause was automatic. I slipped into my usual seat near the end, next to Emma, who squeezed my knee under the table. We were halfway through the antipasto when I stood. The conversation didn't stop. I clinked my water glass. "Excuse me, I'd like to say something." "Oh, Olivia has an announcement." Aunt Linda's voice dripped fake enthusiasm. "Did you finally get a real job?" "No, Deep breath. "I need to talk about something personal. I've been struggling with depression and I've been seeing a therapist." The room went quiet. Not supportive quiet, uncomfortable quiet. "I need help with therapy costs," I continued. "It's $200 a session and Therapy? For what?" Mom's voice cut through like ice. "Depression from family pressure." Victoria laughed. Actually laughed. "That's dramatic." "It's not dramatic. It's real. The constant criticism about my career." "Maybe get a better career?" Uncle Robert suggested. "I just need some support. Financial or emotional. Either would—" "This is inappropriate." Mom stood, gathering her purse. "Asking for money at a family dinner? I raised you better than this." "I'm asking for help with mental health treatment. You need to be stronger, not therapy." She was already moving toward the door. "I have an early meeting. Deal with your issues yourself." 20 relatives. Not one spoke up as she left. Mom's heels clicked against the marble floor as she paused at the doorway. Without turning around, she delivered her final verdict. I have an early meeting. Deal with your issues yourself. The door closed with a soft thud that echoed like thunder. 20 relatives sat frozen, some staring at their plates, others exchanging glances. The silence stretched until Aunt Linda cleared her throat. Well, that was awkward, she muttered, reaching for her wine. I remained standing, watching the door, waiting for something. An apology from the table, maybe, or at least acknowledgement of what just happened. Nothing came. Sit down, Olivia, Victoria said, her voice pitched like she was talking to a child. You're making everyone uncomfortable. Mom just walked out when I asked for help with therapy. Because it was manipulative, Victoria took a sip of her martini. This isn't the time or place. When is? She doesn't return my calls. She changes the subject when I try to talk about my life. Maybe because your life is depressing? Victoria shrugged. I mean, what do you expect? You chose this path. The cruelest part was what I remembered later, listening to the recording. 2 months ago, Mom had spent $5,000 on a spa retreat for Victoria. She works so hard, she deserves to relax, Mom had said, showing us the resort brochure at this very table. But $200 for her younger daughter's mental health? That was too much. Emma reached for my hand, but I pulled away. I needed to feel this fully, to remember why I was doing what I was about to do. Anyone else? I asked the table. Anyone think maybe Mom's reaction was wrong? Silence. Uncle Robert finally spoke. Your mother knows best, Olivia. Of course she did. She always had. Victoria's laugh started small, then grew until the entire room was watching. She stood, commanding attention like the courtroom was her natural habitat. This is what happens when you waste your education on dreams, she announced, gesturing at me with her martini glass. Everyone, Olivia wants us to fund her therapy because she's sad about her career choices. That's not what Maybe if you had a real job you could afford your own therapy. She turned to the cousins. Did you all know Olivia borrowed $500 from me last year? For rent? I felt my face burn. I paid you back within a month. The point is, you needed it. Victoria was on a roll now, performing for her audience. 32 years old and still acting like a teenager. Mom's right, you need to grow up, not therapy. The cousins chuckled. Aunt Linda nodded approvingly. Uncle Robert muttered something about millennials and their feelings. You know what your problem is? Victoria continued, her voice carrying that special brand of cruelty reserved for family. You think being a writer makes you special. Newsflash, anyone can write. It's not a skill, it's a hobby you're pretending is a career. I've been published in... Nobody cares about your little magazine articles, Olivia. When you're ready to join the adult world, maybe we'll take you seriously. She sat down to scattered applause. Actually, applause. Like humiliating me was dinner theater. Only Emma wasn't clapping. She stared at Victoria with something close to disgust. When our eyes met, she mouthed, I'm sorry. I sat down slowly, mechanically. The recorder in my purse had captured everything. Good. When I doubted myself later, when they tried to gaslight me about this night, I'd have proof. They'd shown me exactly who they were. If you've ever felt invisible in your own family, hit that subscribe button. I know how it feels when the people who should support you the most become your biggest critics. Comment below. Have you ever tested your family's loyalty? What happened? Your stories help others realize they're not alone. Before we continue, remember, your worth isn't determined by anyone else's opinion, not even family. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is stop seeking approval from people committed to misunderstanding you. Let's continue. After dinner, I sat in my apartment, too numb to cry. Around 10 p.m., my doorbell rang. Emma stood there with a pizza and a bottle of wine. That was brutal, she said, pulling me into a hug. I'm so sorry. We sat on my couch, picking at pepperoni while I tried to process the evening. I almost told her about the inheritance right then. The words were on my tongue. Emma, I have $300 million and they don't know, but I swallowed them. You know what's funny? Emma said, studying the photo wall in my living room. Your Aunt Margaret would be proud of your writing. I followed her gaze to the single photo I had of Aunt Margaret, taken at my college graduation. She stood apart from the family group, wearing a simple black dress and a knowing smile. She looks wealthy, Emma observed. Something about her posture, like she knew secrets. She had no idea how right she was. Margaret always said I was special, I murmured. She sent me a card when my first piece was published, the only family member who did. What did it say? I still had it, tucked in my journal. Money reveals character, but character creates value. Emma poured more wine. Deep. Very Margaret. Mom said she was worth a decent amount when she died. Couple million, maybe. If only they knew. Your writing matters, Liv, Emma said suddenly. I don't care what Victoria says. Your piece about starting over? It gave me courage to leave my ex. That's real impact. Thanks, Em. I mean it. And honestly, screw them, the family, not your readers. Your readers see your worth. After she left, I looked at Margaret's photo again. You were right, I whispered. Money does reveal character. Saturday couldn't come fast enough. Tuesday morning, Mr. Harrison called with perfect timing. I'll be attending your mother's birthday celebration this Saturday. She invited the entire firm. We've handled your family's smaller matters for years. Perfect. Can you bring the inheritance documentation, the original papers? Of course. May I ask why? My aunt wanted the announcement to be memorable. I'm honoring her wishes. He chuckled. Your aunt specifically mentioned in her private notes that she wanted, and I quote, Patricia's face when she finds out, to be witnessed by as many people as possible. She really didn't like my mother, did she? Let's just say your aunt had opinions about how your mother treated you. Strong opinions. She kept tabs, you know. Had me send someone to a few of your family dinners over the years. The reports were illuminating. She spied on family dinners? Observed. She wanted to be sure she was leaving her fortune to the right person. The will was updated 6 months ago, after a particularly harsh Thanksgiving, I believe. The Thanksgiving where Mom had toasted Victoria's promotion while forgetting to mention my National Magazine Award nomination. Bring everything, I said. Every document. With pleasure. Your aunt would have enjoyed this. I checked my bank account again, still surreal. 333,247,892 Muncie. Then I looked at my outfit for Saturday, a designer dress I'd bought with my first inheritance payment. Nothing flashy, just quietly expensive, the kind of quality Mom would notice and wonder about. I texted Emma. Are you coming to Mom's party? Wouldn't miss it. You okay after last week? Better than okay. See you Saturday. I practiced my announcement in the mirror one more time. Calm, dignified, factual. No emotion, just truth. They wanted me to grow up? Saturday, they'd see exactly how grown I'd become. The week of silence was deafening. Not a single family member reached out after the dinner disaster. No texts checking if I was okay. No calls about therapy, mental health, or even basic human concern. The family WhatsApp group stayed active. Victoria shared photos from a partner's dinner. Mom posted about her upcoming birthday party. Cousins chatted about vacation plans. It was like I didn't exist. Only Emma texted every day. How are you holding up? Thinking of you. Ignore them. You matter to me. Wednesday, Victoria posted on Facebook. Some people blame everyone else for their problems instead of taking responsibility. Maturity means owning your choices. Hash. Grow up. Hashed. Adulting is hard. 47 likes. Mom commented with applause emojis. I almost responded, almost posted my bank balance in the comments. But no, Saturday would be so much better. Thursday, I went shopping. Not revenge shopping, strategic shopping. A understated designer dress from Bergdorf's. Simple jewelry that whispered rather than shouted. The kind of outfit that said, successful, without trying. Special occasion? The saleswoman asked. Family reunion of sorts? Friday afternoon, I discovered something interesting. Mom hadn't actually invited me to her birthday party. I found out through Emma, who forwarded the invitation assuming I'd received one. Patricia's 60th birthday celebration, country club, cocktail attire, RSVP required. My name wasn't on the guest list. I'll be your +1, Emma offered when I told her. No need, I'll handle it. I called the country club directly. Hi, I'm Olivia Smith, Patricia's daughter. I seem to have misplaced my invitation. Oh, Mrs. Smith mentioned you might not make it, but of course you're welcome. Family is always included. Family. Right. Saturday morning, I woke up calm. Eerily calm. The dress fit perfectly. The documents were ready. Time to find out what family really meant. The country club looked like Mom's Pinterest board had exploded. Gold balloons, white orchids, a champagne tower that screamed, "Look how well we're doing." 50 guests mingled on the terrace overlooking the golf course. Afternoon sun casting everyone in that perfect golden hour glow. I paused at the entrance, smoothing my dress. The valet who took my keys did a double take at my car, still my old Honda, but detailed to perfection. Let them wonder about the dress, the jewelry. The mystery would make the reveal sweeter. Olivia? Mom's voice carried across the terrace, dripping surprise. Oh, you came. She air-kissed me, her lips barely grazing my cheek. I wasn't sure you'd... Well, after last week's performance. Wouldn't miss your 60th, Mom. Her eyes scanned my outfit, lingering on the dress. I saw the calculation. Designer, definitely. But how? Victoria appeared, champagne in hand, voice pitched to Carrie. She probably needs money again, she said to our cousin Jennifer, loud enough for nearby guests to hear. Why else would she show up after that therapy stunt? Several heads turned. The whisper started. I spotted Mr. Harrison across the terrace, his silver hair unmistakable. He stood with 3 other senior partners from his firm, all invited guests. He caught my eye and nodded, patting the leather briefcase at his side. Olivia! Emma appeared, wrapping me in a genuine hug. You look amazing. That dress. Thanks. I hugged her back, meaning it. You look beautiful too. Is that new? Mom interrupted, gesturing at my outfit. How did you afford... We should find our seats, I said calmly. I heard there are speeches. Mom's eyes narrowed, but she was pulled away by arriving guests. Victoria stage whispered to another cousin. Probably maxed out a credit card. So irresponsible. Perfect. Let them think that. The speeches started after the second champagne pour. Mom's friend Barbara went first, then Uncle Robert, each toast more effusive than the last. Then Mom took the microphone, glowing with attention. Thank you all for celebrating with me. 60 years, and I'm so proud of what our family has accomplished. She raised her glass toward Victoria. My eldest daughter just made partner, the youngest in her firm's history. Applause thundered. Victoria stood, waving like a pageant queen. Such achievements make a mother proud, Mom continued. Success, ambition, drive, these are the values that matter. Someone called out, "What about Olivia?" Mom's smile tightened. Olivia is finding herself. A pause, perfectly timed. Still, at 32. Nervous laughter rippled through the crowd. Victoria grabbed the microphone. Some of us peak in high school, others are just beginning. She looked directly at me. And some never peak at all. But hey, participation trophies for everyone, right? The laughter was louder this time. Cruel. Remember when Olivia said she'd be a famous writer by 30? Victoria continued, playing to her audience. Now she needs therapy because life is hard. Maybe if she'd chosen a real career. That's enough, Emma said, standing. Oh, Emma, sweet Emma, still defending lost causes? Victoria's smile was razor sharp. Birds of a feather, I suppose. The family disappointments sticking together. I stood slowly, my movement drawing attention. The terrace went quiet. Actually, I said, taking the microphone from Victoria's surprised hand, I have an announcement. Sit down, Mom hissed. It's about Aunt Margaret's estate. The silence was immediate. Nobody knew there was an estate worth mentioning. Mr. Harrison? I called across the terrace. Would you please? The elderly lawyer stood, briefcase in hand, walking toward us with the measured pace of someone about to deliver life-changing news. I have an announcement about Aunt Margaret's estate, I repeated, my voice steady through the microphone. The terrace fell silent except for the distant sound of golf carts. 50 faces turned toward me, confused. Most of them had barely known Margaret existed, let alone that she'd left an estate worth announcing. Estate? Mom's voice cut through. Margaret lived in a one-bedroom condo in Seattle. Actually, Mr. Harrison said, reaching the makeshift stage area, Ms. Margaret Miller maintained several residences. The Seattle condo was merely her registered address. He set his briefcase on a nearby table, the click of the locks echoing in the quiet. I'm James Harrison, senior partner at Harrison & Associates. We've managed the Miller family legal matters for 40 years. What estate? Victoria demanded. She was a retired teacher. Ms. Miller was many things. Mr. Harrison pulled out a thick folder. A teacher, yes. Also an early investor in Microsoft, Amazon, and 12 other companies that became quite profitable. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Mom's face had gone pale. This is ridiculous, she sputtered. Margaret never mentioned. Your sister was an extremely private person, Mrs. Smith. She preferred it that way. Mr. Harrison adjusted his glasses. However, she left very specific instructions about how her estate should be announced, publicly, with witnesses. How much? Someone called out. Mr. Harrison looked at me. I nodded. The last will and testament of Margaret Ann Miller, he began, his lawyer voice carrying across the terrace. Dated 6 months ago, witnessed and notarized according to state law. Victoria grabbed Mom's arm. This can't be happening. The total value of the estate, including properties, investments, and liquid assets. The entire party held its breath. $333 million. Someone dropped a champagne glass. It shattered on the terrace stones. $333 million, Mr. Harrison repeated into the stunned silence. Mom's champagne glass slipped from her hand, shattering on the terrace. Victoria's mouth hung open, her perfectly lined lips forming a silent O. The entire party stood frozen, like someone had hit pause on an elaborate scene. That's impossible, Mom finally whispered. Quite possible, I assure you, Mr. Harrison continued. Ms. Miller was an exceptional investor. She turned a teacher's pension into a fortune through careful, strategic investments over 40 years. Who gets it? Victoria's voice cracked. Mr. Harrison looked at me, then back at the documents. The sole beneficiary of Margaret Ann Miller's estate is her niece, Olivia Jane Smith. The silence exploded into chaos. What? Victoria shrieked. This can't be legal! Mom stumbled forward. I'm her sister. I'm her blood. The will is ironclad, Mrs. Smith. Your sister was very specific. All eyes turned to me. I stood there calm in my designer dress that suddenly made sense, holding the microphone like a shield. From the corner, Emma started laughing. Not cruel laughter, joy, pure, delighted joy. She was the only one smiling, tears streaming down her face as she clapped slowly, deliberately. You knew? Victoria spun toward me. You knew this whole time? Since Monday, I said quietly. The therapy money. Mom's face went from pale to red. You asked for $200 when you had $333 million, I confirmed. Yes, I wanted to know who cared about me, not my money. Victoria laughed, but it sounded like breaking glass. This can't be real. Mr. Harrison held up the notarized documents. I assure you, Ms. Smith, this is completely real and legally binding. The party stood in stunned silence, watching my family's world restructure itself in real time. This is completely legal and already processed, Mr. Harrison confirmed, his voice cutting through the chaos. The funds have been transferred, the estate is settled. But why her? Mom's voice broke. Why Olivia? Mr. Harrison pulled out another document. Your sister left a letter explaining her decision. May I? I nodded. To my niece who dared to dream, he read. While others chose safety and status, you chose authenticity. While your mother and sister valued appearances over art, you valued truth over comfort. I watched from afar as they belittled your gifts, dismissed your achievements, and tried to break your spirit. They failed. You are the only one who understood that creation matters more than accumulation, that stories matter more than status. This fortune is yours because you already know something they never learned. Real worth isn't measured in dollars. Mom sank into a chair. She watched? What does that mean, she watched? Ms. Miller had me send associates to observe family gatherings, Mr. Harrison explained. She wanted to see how Olivia was treated. The reports were concerning. You spied on us? Victoria's voice went shrill. She documented, Mr. Harrison corrected. Particularly after Olivia won the National Magazine Award nomination, not one family member acknowledged it. That was just some writing thing, Mom started. That writing thing was a prestigious honor. Ms. Miller was appalled by your response, or lack thereof. Why didn't you tell us? Patricia turned to me, tears starting. When I walked out last week. You walked out when I asked for help, I said quietly. $200 for therapy, Mom. You spent $5,000 on Victoria's spa weekend. That's different. How? The question hung in the air. Around us, 50 guests watched the family drama unfold better than any reality show. She saw who I really was, I said, not who you wanted me to be. This is where everything changes. If you've been waiting for someone to stand up to family bullies, keep watching. But first, if this story resonates with you, please like and share. Someone in your life might need to hear this. Have you ever had a moment where you proved everyone wrong? Tell me in the comments. Your stories matter. They show others they're not alone in dealing with family who can't see their worth. Now let's see what Olivia does with her power. I took a deep breath, addressing the entire party. I'm setting up a foundation for struggling artists, people whose families don't understand their dreams, who are told they're wasting their lives by creating art. Mom stood up. Olivia, let's discuss this privately. No, you wanted public humiliation? This is public accountability. I turned to Emma. Emma, your college is fully paid, all of it. Your loans, living expenses, everything. Emma burst into tears. Olivia, no, that's too much. It's not enough. You're the only one who saw me, who brought me dinner when everyone else brought judgment. This is insane, Victoria stepped forward. I'm your sister. Yes, and you get nothing. The crowd gasped. Nothing? Victoria's voice cracked. We're family. Family shows up. Family supports. Family doesn't mock your dreams in front of 20 people. I kept my voice steady. Mom, Victoria, you get nothing. Not out of spite, but boundaries. You can't do this, Mom cried. Support is earned, not demanded. I looked at both of them. For 5 years, you've told me I'm worthless, a failure, a disappointment. You've made every family gathering an exercise in humiliation. We were trying to motivate you. You were trying to break me. There's a difference. Uncle Robert stepped forward. Now, Olivia, let's be reasonable. Reasonable? I turned to him. Was it reasonable when you all applauded Victoria for humiliating me last week? Was it reasonable when Mom walked out rather than help with therapy? That's different. It's not. And it never was. I handed the microphone back to the stunned MC. Family isn't about blood, it's about who shows up when you have nothing to offer. Please, Mom whispered. Mom. You taught me to know my worth, I said. 0, according to you. Turns out you were wrong. The terrace erupted into chaos. You can't do this. I'm your sister. Victoria grabbed my arm. I helped you. I loaned you money. $500 that I paid back in 3 weeks. You've mentioned it at every dinner since. I'm your mother. Patricia pushed forward, tears streaming. I raised you. I gave you everything. You gave me criticism, comparison, shame. Never once did you say you were proud of my writing. Because writing isn't still? Even now you can't say it? Suddenly, relatives who hadn't spoken to me in years surrounded me. Olivia, sweetheart, we should catch up. Aunt Linda cooed. I always believed in your writing. You called it a waste of my education last Christmas. Cousin Jennifer tried next. We're family. Family helps family. Where was that help last week? Emma pushed through the crowd, still crying, and hugged me tight. You don't have to do this. The college money is already in an education trust with your name on it. Mr. Harrison has the paperwork. Victoria turned on Emma. You knew. You had to know. I found out 10 seconds ago, same as you. Emma's tears turned to steel. But unlike you, I'm not surprised. Olivia deserves every penny. How can you say that? Mom shrieked. Because I actually read her work. Do you even know she was nominated for a national magazine award? That her essay on family trauma has been shared over 1 million times? That universities pay her to speak? Silence. You didn't know any of that, did you? Emma shook her head. You were so busy comparing her to Victoria, you never saw who Olivia actually is. This is insane, Victoria whispered, but the fight was leaving her voice. $300 million. $333 million, I corrected. And you'll never see a penny. Mr. Harrison stepped forward, pulling additional documents from his briefcase. There's more. Ms. Miller anticipated this reaction. He began distributing envelopes to Mom and Victoria. These are cease and desist orders. Any harassment, manipulation, or attempts to coerce Ms. Olivia Smith regarding her inheritance will result in immediate legal action. You're threatening us? Victoria snatched the envelope. I'm a lawyer. Then you'll understand these are legally binding. Any contact beyond basic civility will be considered harassment. This is our daughter, Mom wailed. You can't stop a mother from contacting her child. We can stop harassment, Mr. Harrison said firmly. The estate is ironclad. There are no loopholes, no grounds for contest. Ms. Miller spent considerable resources ensuring this. Patricia tried one last manipulation. Olivia, sweetheart, I know I haven't been perfect, but I'm your mother. Doesn't that mean anything? It meant everything, I said quietly. That's why it hurts so much. We can fix this. We can be a family again. We were never a family. We were a hierarchy, and I was at the bottom. Please. Your approval was never worth my mental health. I looked at both of them. I spent years destroying myself trying to earn your love. It was never available, was it? Victoria laughed bitterly. So this is revenge? No, this is boundaries, something I should have set years ago. You'll regret this, she hissed. When you're alone with your money, I won't be alone. I'll be with people who loved me when I had nothing. I glanced at Emma. That's the difference between family and relatives. Mr. Harrison closed his briefcase. My firm will handle any necessary communication going forward. Good evening. The party stood frozen, watching the complete dismantling of the Smith family hierarchy in real time. The fallout was immediate and spectacular. Within an hour, the video someone had been recording went viral in our social circle. Victoria's firm saw it by Monday morning. Her carefully cultivated reputation as a composed, professional lawyer shattered when they watched her shriek about money that was never hers. They didn't fire me, she told mutual friends later, but the partnership track is gone. Mom's country club friends devoured the scandal like afternoon tea. The woman who'd spent years bragging about Victoria while dismissing me became the subject of whispered conversations and pointed exclusions. The charity board she'd chaired for a decade requested her resignation. For the organization's image, they said. The family split into factions. Some cousins sided with Mom and Victoria, calling me cruel and ungrateful. Others reached out with sudden interest in my writing, my life, my favorite restaurants, transparent attempts at proximity to wealth. Only Emma remained genuine. She accepted the education trust with grace, enrolled in art school, and thrived. "You saved my life," she told me over coffee, "not with money, with belief." My book, the one I'd struggled to finish under the weight of family criticism, sold within a week of submission. "Your story has urgency now," my agent said. The irony wasn't lost on me. Success attracting success. Mr. Harrison called 2 weeks later. "Your mother's lawyer contacted us. She's exploring options." "Let her explore. The answer remains no." He chuckled. "Your aunt would be proud. She had a recording too, you know, from a dinner 5 years ago. Your mother calling your writing Olivia's little hobby that we humor. Margaret never forgave that." The recording. Of course. Margaret had been playing the long game, gathering evidence of who deserved her fortune, just like I had. The reconciliation attempt started 3 weeks after the party. First came the emails. Victoria wrote lengthy apologies I never read. Gmail's preview showed enough. I realize now. And, if you could just understand. They went straight to a folder my lawyer would review. Mom tried showing up at my new house. Yes, I'd moved. The doorman, briefed by security, politely turned her away. "Ms. Smith isn't receiving unscheduled visitors." "I'm her mother!" echoed through the lobby. "I'm aware, ma'am. Have a nice day." The flying monkeys came next. Aunt Linda called Emma, trying to extract my new address. Uncle Robert emailed about a family investment opportunity. Cousin Jennifer started a Facebook campaign about forgiveness and family values, tagging me in posts I'd never see. I'd block them all. "They're getting desperate," Emma told me over lunch at a quiet cafe. Victoria cornered me at the grocery store. What did she want? "To know if you ever ask about them, if you seem sad, if there's any chance you'll change your mind." What did you tell her? "The truth, that you're happier than I've ever seen you, that your skin cleared up, you're sleeping again, and you laugh now. Real laughs, not the nervous kind you did at family dinners." It was true. Without the constant criticism, my anxiety had plummeted. My writing flowed. My shoulders no longer lived near my ears. "Victoria cried," Emma added, "said she never meant to hurt you. Impact matters more than intent." That's what I told her. She said that's something you would say. Because it's true. A month later, Mom sent a letter through Mr. Harrison, just 2 lines. "I'm in therapy now. I'm beginning to understand." I kept the letter but didn't respond. Understanding and accountability were different things. Forgiveness didn't mean access, not anymore. The Olivia Smith Foundation for Creative Arts launched 6 weeks after the party. Within the first month, we'd funded 100 struggling artists, writers working minimum wage, painters living in their cars, musicians choosing between rent and instruments. Every application told my story in different words. Family disapproval, financial struggle, the choice between art and approval. "You saved us," one recipient wrote. "Not just with money, with proof that someone who understands made it through." My mental health transformed. Dr. Chen actually smiled during sessions now. "Your entire physiology has changed. You're not carrying your family's judgment in your body anymore." The book hit the New York Times bestseller list in its first week. The title? Blood Isn't Always Family, a memoir of choosing yourself. Victoria probably hated that. Speaking engagements poured in. Universities, conferences, podcasts. Everyone wanted to hear about the woman who inherited millions and gave none to toxic family. I donated every speaking fee to the foundation. Emma flourished at art school. Her professors raved about her talent, freed from financial pressure. She sent me her first completed painting, a woman standing in light while shadows reached for her ankles. "It's called Choosing the Sun," she wrote, "inspired by you." Real friends emerged from unexpected places. Other writers I'd met online became genuine connections. Neighbors in my new building invited me to dinner without knowing about the money. A book club formed around authors who'd been rejected by their families. "Success is the best revenge," one member said during a discussion. "It's not revenge," I corrected. "Success is just success. Peace is the real prize." And I had it. Finally. Peace without guilt, success without shame, family without blood. 6 months post-party, I realized something. They'd been right. I had been wasting my life, wasting it on them. 6 months after the birthday party, Emma forwarded me a text from Victoria. "Lost the promotion. Mom's a pariah at the club. We're both in therapy. Hope you're happy." I was, actually. Not about their suffering, but about my peace. Through the family grapevine, Emma learned the details. Victoria's firm had restructured her position after the viral video showed her greed and cruelty. She kept her job, but lost the partner track she'd sacrificed everything for. Mom's social fall was complete. The country club women who'd once envied her successful daughter now whispered about the mother who'd driven away an heiress. She'd been quietly removed from 3 charity boards and the spring gala committee. "The irony," Emma told me over dinner, "is that they're finally doing what you begged for, therapy. Too little, too late." Victoria's therapist apparently told her she has narcissistic tendencies. Mom's working through her own mother's criticism. Generational trauma, the whole thing. Good for them. You don't care? I care that they're getting help. I don't care to be part of their healing journey. A month later, a letter arrived through Mr. Harrison. Mom's handwriting steadier than before. "I understand now. I treated you how my mother treated me. I chose Victoria because she was easier to understand. Your art, your sensitivity. It scared me because I'd buried those parts of myself. I'm sorry. Not asking for forgiveness or access. Just wanted you to know. I see it now. I see you now. Too late, but I see." I kept the letter in a drawer with Aunt Margaret's photo. Growth required accountability, but it didn't require reconciliation. Victoria never wrote. Pride, probably. Or maybe her therapist advised against it. Either way, the silence was golden. Money didn't change people, it revealed them. That's what Aunt Margaret knew when she wrote her will. She'd learned it the hard way, cutting off her own toxic family decades ago. "She went through the same thing," Mr. Harrison told me during our final meeting. "Your grandparents favored your mother because she was conventional. Margaret was the artist, the dreamer. Sound familiar? Why didn't she warn me? Would you have believed her? Or would family loyalty have made you defend them?" He was right. I'd needed to learn it myself, feel the cuts firsthand before I could hold the knife that severed the ties. True family showed up when you had nothing to offer. Emma, bringing pizza and presents. My writing community, celebrating my nomination when my blood family ignored it. The barista who remembered my order and asked about my latest article. Boundaries weren't cruel. They were necessary. Every therapist knew it, but knowing and doing were different beasts. It took $300 million to teach me that no was a complete sentence. Your worth isn't determined by others' opinions. I'd written variations of that sentence 1,000 times for readers, never believing it myself. Now, with family silenced and success loud, I finally understood. Worth was internal. Everything else was noise. Emma had become the sister I'd always wanted. We had weekly dinners, inside jokes, mutual support without scorekeeping. "You know what's funny?" she said one night. "They spent so much energy comparing you to Victoria, They never noticed you'd already surpassed her. Your writing touched more lives than her law career ever will. She broke the cycle by choosing me, I told Emma, showing her Aunt Margaret's photo. I continued it by choosing myself. And you chose me too, Emma smiled. The family we make is the family that matters. She was right. Blood made you related. Loyalty made you family. If this story resonated with you, you're not alone. Setting boundaries with toxic family isn't cruel. It's necessary for survival. What would you have done with $333 million and a toxic family? Comment below. If you need to hear this, your worth isn't determined by family approval. You deserve support, not judgment. Subscribe for more stories about standing up for yourself and finding your chosen family. Share this with someone who needs to know they're not crazy for wanting boundaries. Until next time, remember, family is about behavior, not blood.